Hey, what's good, everybody? Happy Wednesday already. This week is going by pretty fast. Well, the markets are moving pretty fast today. Look, the Dow was up by 76 only at the end of the day. The S&P added 1 and the Nasdaq was higher by 9. Look, the market started a lot higher today. It was a much more exciting start to the day. We'll make our way over to the charts here in a second, but this sort of volatility that you're seeing in the markets, the swinging back and forth in a wide range, which I'll explain in a second, just continues here. So let's take a look at the charts. We have the S&P on the screen today, and basically what I want to show you is, can we go to a 5-minute time period? We're going to just look at only today's events. Here is where the market's officially open, the actual stocks for trading. We're looking at the S&P futures. Actually, let's go over here. And we'll change it up a little bit. Now what we're looking at is the S&P as an individual. So it opened up higher today. It was very exciting that the stocks had rallied kind of overnight thanks to President Trump's speech and among other things. And then it spent the day just kind of giving back all of what it started up higher as. And then it kind of tried to go back up again and then smacked back down. The Dow went negative, S&P went negative. Pretty impressive day there. What we're basically learning from this, I mean, I could talk about this all day long, but what we're learning from this is there are major decisions being made at these highs. So for example, the last 4 days have been very wide range days, meaning the difference between the low of the day and the high of the day were further apart than we've seen really in a long time. That's the most stretch of days that we've had doing that. And what that tells you is there's a lot more people that think, yep, this is the top. And then there's a lot more people that think, I've heard all the good news I need to hear, I'm diving back in. So you've got this sort of tug of war that normally takes place every day, but now it's taking place at an extreme, or what people are starting to perceive as an extreme. And so you have these wild days back and forth. Makes for great trading if you're a day trader, but if you're not, then, you know, it's just kind of fun to watch anyways, I guess. Federal Reserve, interest rates. Janet Yellen's last meeting, she decided not to do anything in her last meeting. No change to the interest rates there. And they also did say that it looks like their target for inflation is on track. They're aiming for that 2% inflation mark at the moment, and they've been under that. They've been just a little bit lower according to their reports. And so a little bit better, it seems like. They've got inflation headed back towards their 2% target. Let's move on from the boring stuff. Let's talk about some fun stuff. General Electric. You remember General Electric? Good old GE at the bottom of the chart. You can't even see it on the screen there. There's talks of the Dow actually removing it from, of General Electric being removed from the Dow. Now here's how this works. This is sort of a joke. How far can I go back here? Time frame, I want to go back 20 years. Oh, cool. So if we go back 20 years on the Dow, really you should go back as far as possible. Go back to before the Great Depression if you want to pull up that chart, and the Dow just basically goes straight up. There's moments of scariness, there's a couple years where it's down, some crashes inside of there, but from all the way back to the Great Depression, all the way till now, the Dow goes straight up. Why is it that the Dow goes straight up? That's interesting that it never seems to really have periods where it loses in value and causes any kind of downtrend. If you're familiar with trading, it's in a constant uptrend. Why is that? Stocks like GE, when they start to underperform, they get kicked to the curb. You have to perform well in order to be in the Dow because they want to show the Dow going up all the time. General Electric looks to be one of those that they're going to get rid of. You know, nothing we can do about it. If they drop them from it, they're going to add a better performer, which will make the Dow appear to do better over time. So that's the little game they play there. That's why I don't follow the Dow 30 as much. You can't get a real accurate picture of what's going on in the market. You want to start with the Russell 2000 if that's something you're interested in, and the S&P 500 gives you a better view of what's going on. Let's take a look. We've got Walmart on the screen here today. They were so smart. They tried to hide this in the news by saying lots of positive things, one negative, lots of positive things, and the media chose not to focus on that. So basically, a couple weeks ago, we did a video on this. Walmart is closing 63 of their Sam's Club stores, those big warehouses that they have, and what they're going to do is use some of those as distribution centers for their e-commerce. So that way they can compete with Amazon almost immediately versus building these centers and coming up with their own new distribution channels and everything. Really pretty smart. I really like how they're doing this. The problem is They promised that they were going to have employees come work at these new distribution centers, And today they said, oh, we're going to have to cut about 1,000 of those jobs. Turns out those people aren't qualified to work in our distribution center. They knew that the whole time. So cutting at least 1,000 jobs, quote, at least 1,000 jobs. So Walmart trying to hide that in the news, but we picked up on it. Nobody's falling for your junk. So let's move over to big money. You've got 21st Century Fox on the charts there. Big sell-off today, 4%. They are paying record prices to have the rights to NFL's Thursday Night Football, which nobody watches unless it's a really good matchup. So it's partly the NFL's fault for scheduling really crappy games in the middle of the week. But last year, NBC and CBS had paid $450 million for the season. Although they wouldn't admit to it, Fox came out and said, or Fox, we found out, is going to pay $3 billion over the next 5 seasons. So you do some quick math there. They're paying more than anybody when ratings are actually down by about 12%. I don't remember the number. Ratings are down, nobody's watching, and they're paying record prices. Seems like we want, if you need a negotiator, you want the guy that does that for the NFL. He's doing a great job. Let's move on over to AMD. These guys make the chips that are in your computers. You can buy an Intel chip as a processor. You can buy an AMD chip. There's others as well, but these are kind of the two dominant forces. Well, Intel has been struggling lately. I'll pull up the chart of Intel. They had great earnings. Everything went well. They sort of fought off that problem with their kernels where hackers could get into their chips. And ever since then, it's been kind of more and more on Wall Street. People are saying AMD, they're going to take over. They're going to slowly get more market share. Well, we had a couple different analysts come out today and say that AMD is doing everything perfectly. They are, quote, executing on all fronts, and they expect that AMD is going to start stealing market share from AMD. I don't know if that's a fact, but we've got a lot of analysts saying that that's the sort of the case. And remember, analysts know what they're talking about. They get picked on a lot, but hey, they nailed that Apple cut in production, didn't they? Let's talk about some other fun stuff. Facebook, not really a big mover today. There's not much to say that's exciting there, except for they decided that they are not going to allow Bitcoin ads or Bitcoin promotions on their advertising network. So they keep like tightening the noose here on people that can advertise, what you can say and what sort of information can be put in front of people ever since that whole Russia election whole scandal or whatever you want to call it. I don't know. They're being nice basically to the government. They're also taking a look at Bitcoin saying we want nothing to do with it, which it did hurt Bitcoin today. I believe it closed. It did. It closed under 10,000 today. So looking a little weaker there on Bitcoin. You can see the chart on the screen. Let's move on through here. Amazon, not really anything exciting to say there unless you own it. The stock was up 1% today. It gave back some of that by the end of the day. Yesterday, they announced to work with JP Morgan. They're going to work with Berkshire Hathaway. They're teaming up to form this sort of Goliath sort of partnership where they're going to simplify healthcare. What does that mean? We don't know exactly yet, but you've got, you know, a god ton of money going after healthcare. These guys are pretty smart. I think they'll figure it out. Check out our video from yesterday where we talked about why those 3 companies actually partnered up. If you have an Amazon Echo, I do not. I don't even think I've ever seen one on the shelves, actually. Amazon Echo now will work by sending SMS text messages over voice. So if you have an Android device, you could say, hey, text my mom, I'll be on my way, or whatever. So that's pretty cool. Something interesting there. After the close today, it seems as though some of these names are already coming out. We've got earnings from Facebook, which has come out with their earnings here. Let's take a look. The stock is down to 178. We just talked about that. So big negative here so far on Facebook. It's dropped all the way back down to this level here that you can see on this. You cannot see on the screen. It closed at 186. We're down to 178. That's just the initial sort of action from the news announcement. We also have Microsoft. Oh, that's not Microsoft. Microsoft reporting earnings, and that looks to be one that may have reported in there as well. Microsoft did report earnings. Stock is trading now at 92, so giving up a little steam there. That's also pulling on the Nasdaq futures just slightly as we go into the close. Hey, I don't know if that's boring to you, but we've got a lot of earnings coming out. eBay is next. Should we check on eBay? I don't know if you're still around. Let's look. eBay, nope, nothing out on eBay just yet. That'll come out here soon. We got Apple tomorrow. Apple is the big one. That's what people are going to focus on. We want to know what's going on with that iPhone. Apple came out today and said we will not deteriorate the quality of the phone. You know, I don't know what the words they use. They use words basically to say we're not lowering the price of our phone. Just because we didn't sell them doesn't mean we're lowering the price, at least for now. So Sorry about your luck. If you want the iPhone X, you're going to have to pay those 4 digits. Well, hey, look, thanks for watching. A little bit scattered today, a lot going on. We normally talk about investments that have to do with your retirements and how that's performing. If you need help with your retirement investments, feel free to go check out these 2 videos here and then go to jazzwealth.com. Happy to help you, and we'll talk soon.